Hello there folks, welcome back to the Chap's Guide. My name is Ash and I am your host on this journey through men's style, self-development and personal grooming. And today I am delighted to bring you another one of my Rate My Shoes videos where you folks have sent me in some wonderful images of your footwear and they've asked for my observations and perhaps some suggestions as to where your footwear collection might go next. Now today it's come from Steve. Now Steve is obviously a North American based individual because almost all of his shoes originate from that continent. So let's just crack on. Oh, before I do, I will just go on to say here that if you would like to feature your footwear in a video like this in the future, by all means, send me in some cracking high definition images of your footwear, maybe with any stories which you have with them too. And I'll make a Rate My Shoe video for you at some point in the future. So Steve tells me that he's built his shoe collection in relatively short order, only since the pandemic when he became increasingly interested in men's dress footwear. And I have to say, the shoes which I'm featuring today are a tiny portion of the collection of shoes which Steve sent to me. I've picked out the ones which I think are the most interesting, or the most broadly worth commenting on, but there were many more, I have to say. So let's have a look at what we've got. Now the first shoe comes as no surprise to anybody, and that's why I'm knocking it off here first of all, and that is a black cap toe Oxford. Now this particular one is made by Johnston and Murphy. It's their Melton cap toe Oxford, standard black. If you were to buy it today, I believe it will be $185 US. So it tells us a lot about the quality of the shoe, judging by that price. We're not expecting something which is spectacular, although Johnston and Murphy, their sort of history as a brand goes back to the 1850s when they were founded, and you know, they became a sort of linchpin of the American shoe world. Many people would go a lifetime wearing Johnston and Murphy shoes. Things have changed as ever. You know, the world is a globalized trading place, and today Johnston and Murphy stopped making shoes in the US in 2017, and now their products are made in India and Italy. Now that's not to say they're not good quality. People often say to me, why do you dislike shoes made in other parts of the world, particularly Italy? I'm not hating on Italy or India or anywhere else. I'm just always making the point, but I would always like to buy shoes from my own country of origin, rather than, say, India, for instance, which is an extremely long way away. Although I've no doubt that their shoes are very high quality. They are Goodyear welted. This particular model comes with a leather sole, although the quality of the leather of the upper is not stated. But a black cap toe Oxford, every man's got to have one in the collection, all right? For the occasions when you're going to those extremely formal events, weddings, funerals, job interviews and so on, where you're going to be donning your business suit and you just want to conform with society's expectation. And as regards for that, this shoe is going to tick that box. It's a fairly bog standard black cap toe Oxford, Goodyear welted, leather sole at a very approachable price. Who's going to argue with that? Right, so you've knocked that one off. Now we're moving into a world where the shoes which our friend Steve chooses are a little bit left of centre. Now let's have a look at this pair of boots by Taft. These are called Eden Noir, and it's an Eden Noir boot in black and multicoloured fabric. It would cost 349 British pounds to purchase. They're made in Spain and they're Blake stitched. The bits of the boot which are leather are full grain leather. Now Blake stitching, just to differentiate it from Goodyear welted stitching, it's also a very good quality way of manufacturing a shoe because it means that the sole is stitched to the upper. There's a mechanical stitched process holding them together. It's not glued or cemented, it is stitched. But it is stitched in such a way that whilst it can be repaired in the future, it's not so easy to repair it as Goodyear welting, which basically means there is a welt, a strip of fabric, a strip of leather, which allows the upper and the sole to be sewn together. Blake stitching, it's a direct stitching to the upper and the sole. So largely speaking, Blake stitch shoes, it's not worth having them repaired. So once you've worn them, you wouldn't necessarily have another sole attached. They tend to be cheaper as a consequence. The company Taft was started as a sock brand, actually, in the United States in around 2013 by an entrepreneur called Corey Stevens, and it's expanded and it's grown. And it is fair to say that its footwear sort of selection is really interesting. Interesting in inverted commas, a little bit left of centre. And if we look at these boots, they're a cap toe dress boot, derby style lacing, with a cap toe in black leather, or appears to be black leather, yeah, black leather. But the rest of the body of the shoe is constructed out of this extremely bold coloured patterned fabric. It looks to be there's a full leather sock on the inside, so it's going to be a nice boot to wear around. Probably got a lot of flex in it, probably a good wearer, but the reality is you're not buying one of these shoes because they wear well. You're wearing it because it looks startling. And although actually this is one of the more muted choices from the brand Taft, I think, if you've got the personality to pull this off, if you're maybe a flamboyant gentleman who's dressing in clothing which will go alongside this shoe choice, good luck to you, because you're a brave man. Moving on to a different brand, now we have J. Fitzpatrick, and this is their Khaki button-up boots in midnight and blue tweed. So it's a made-to-order boot, and it costs £599 and yeah, I mean, it's Jason Fitzpatrick, excuse me, he's somebody who'd be well known to shoe aficionados. He's known as the shoe snob in a variety of media sort of platforms which he's present on, and he started off, very interesting story, started off as a bit of a shoe shine guy, working in Geeves and Hawkes on Savile Row. I believe he was an American, came over to the UK, wanted to get into the shoe design world, started off shining shoes, moved up and up and up, got his designs picked up, and eventually now he has his own company producing, again, what I would say are very interesting footwear, not necessarily what you would call your ordinary run-of-the-mill stuff. The boots that we see are Goodyear welted, made in Spain. So that's how he keeps them at an affordable price. They're made to order, so you choose what you want and they'll be produced for you. And what we're looking at here, I think, is quite an old-fashioned looking boot because of that button-up option to put the boot on. It takes me back to the Edwardian Victorian era, where we would expect to see city gentlemen in London, striding the streets wearing footwear of this nature. But in essence, the boot is quite straightforward. It is a cap toe boot in a midnight blue colour, and yeah, I quite like it. It's not something I would personally wear, and I think you'd have to have a bold wardrobe to go along with this to get good value for money out of it, because it's so unusual. And the tweed, which makes up quite a large portion of the boot, again, distinctive, somewhat unusual. So whilst I like it and I enjoy looking at it, how would I employ it in my wardrobe is a question mark for me. But for somebody who loves their shoes and perhaps enjoys shoes which are, as I've said more than once now, left of centre, a little bit out there, these definitely fall into that category. Moving back to the mainstream, and a shoe which I'm going to say is probably going to be my pick of the bunch, and it's this Lumina Maestro, so I'm probably butchering that, Lumina Maestro shoe range. It's a semi-brogue in burgundy, and this would cost $350 US. Now Meermin is a great shoe brand. They are sort of very much part of the shoe making royalty of that part of the world, Spain, Mallorca. However, their business model is a little bit different to the Carminas and that sort of thing. It's a family business, but what they do, they hybrid the manufacture of their shoes between China and Spain. So you've got bits done here, bits done there, and they end up with a lower priced offering of a shoe, which is extremely approachable in price, but good in quality. They've been around a while now, and this model that they have for making this quality shoes has become beloved of people, which allows you to get into a pair of shoes which you likely wouldn't be able to afford otherwise. And when I look at these, what I see is a Goodyear welted leather soled shoe, incidentally, with a beautiful rich burgundy, somewhat veering more towards the red in colour. Now, it's a semi-brogue, so we're seeing broguing on the medallion at the very front of the shoe, across the toe cap, and around the lacing system as well. And I love broguing on shoes because it brings texture and pattern, where normally in shoes, like a black cap to Oxford, it's plainness. But a bit of broguing brings life. And as time goes on, the broguing and the stitching and the way it all is put together, it adds different patina to the shoe as well, because polish will build up in certain areas and it'll alter the appearance of the shoe over time. I like these. They're a lovely shoe. They're a good price. They're well manufactured. And burgundy is becoming increasingly harder to find. A couple of years ago, the shoe world went nuts for burgundy. Just recently, it's tapering off. I went to a few of the shoe shops in Jermyn Street very recently on my last visit to London a week or so ago. I was looking for a pair of shoes not dissimilar to this from the main British manufacturers, and very few are carrying burgundy at the moment. And when asked why, I was told that burgundy is no longer the colour of choice. Everybody is asking for brown. So burgundy, there are less models coming out into the current catalogues in that colour. Now, I'm a bit of maybe a traditionalist, but I've always loved burgundy. It's not a trend for me. It's something I've been wearing, all my adult life. So if you've got a burgundy shoe, cherish it. But yeah, these are a lovely pair of shoes, and I would say my pick for the collection, which we've been sent by Steve. Now, going from the ordinary, we've gone to something a little bit different. And what we see here is a Scaraso and Lanaio. It's a Cerruti Havana loafer in cognac and white fabric. This would cost £325 if you were to buy these. It's a somewhat niche Italian shoe company, heralding from Milan. It's a Blake stitch construction, so again, put together a little bit more simply than Goodyear welting, allowing us to get into it for a little bit cheaper. Leather quality, unknown, but what we've got is a leather sole. And when you look at the shoe, it's not about the manufacturer, it's not about the way that the sole is stitched to the upper, it's about the colours and the way they're put together. And we have that apron of the shoe, so the white bit, striking, made of fabric, very interesting, and that cognac reddy colour making up the rest of the loafer. Now, I don't know whether you call a two-tone loafer like this a correspondent shoe, as one would call, maybe if it was a brogue we'd call it that, but it's a very striking shoe. I actually rather like it. Again, bold. I mean, I can only guess that Steve is a man who has quite a bold wardrobe. Maybe he likes a bit of jazz. Maybe he likes, sort of flamboyance in his life. But these shoes, I really like them because the colours, the way they're put together, it's a penny loafer, obviously, and it's something which I think you could wear maybe in a tropical environment very often. So if you're from, the southern part of the US, hot and heavy, humid climates, and you're wearing clothes which are maybe more colourful and bright, these are going to be a great addition to that sort of wardrobe. Now, veering back towards the norm again, here we have another unusual brand which I hadn't heard of before. So Steve is really dipping his toe into waters and seeking out shoe brands which have an offering which are very good in price, largely because, like this shoe, Blake rapid stitched. So as I say, the way the shoe is put together, this shoe is made in Italy, and it's by a company called Felca, and it's the Cavident shoe in a tobacco brown. Now, it would cost only 170 British pounds if you were to buy this. The company's been around since 2013. Two chaps started the company together, and their business model is a direct consumer thing. So they don't have retail. They just, you order it on their website, they'll have the shoe made up in Italy, and they'll have it sent to you. And what I see here is a very nice looking pair of semi-brogues, Oxford style, but in suede. And yeah, I mean, I've got a pair of shoes like this, and I find them eminently wearable. They're the sort of shoe that you can throw on with a pair of chinos. You can throw them on with a pair of sort of grey flannel slacks. They're very, very versatile in a gentleman's wardrobe, and this is a nice colour. It's not too dark, it's not sort of dark chocolate, it's a lighter and, as they say, tobacco brown. I think you could put these to use in your wardrobe on a daily basis, and for 170 quid for a Blake Rapid Stitch shoe made in Italy, that is a good price. I'd be interested in knowing more about this company, might even dip my toe in myself. Seems like, you know, they're making something which is artistically beautiful, well constructed, at an extremely affordable price point. So, moving on. Another somewhat niche brand that I hadn't heard of before, called 3DM. An unusual shoe which has been chosen here. It is a full wingtip Oxford shoe, but in white, costing only £150. Now again, it's a direct-to-consumer brand, but made in India this time, and again, like a few of them we've spoken about today, come into existence in 2013. So, you know, just outside a decade, a little bit more than a decade in operation. And what we have here, as you can see, is a full wingtip white brogue shoe, Oxford style lacing system. Blake stitched again, so still mechanically put together. It's got a leather sole, but the leather on the upper is what they're describing as crust leather. I'm going to guess that's something like bookbinder. So what you've got, it's a lower quality leather. That's all we really need to know about it. But in essence, again, if you're in a hot climate and you're in the habit of wearing white trousers, maybe, you know, on a daily basis, or a white suit, linen clothing, lighting colour, and you want a pair of shoes which are going to match very nicely with that outfit, keep the flow going, the continuity of those lighter colours. But however, it's something you don't want to spend a huge amount of money on. This is a really good price. I mean, let's be honest, £150, that would normally be buying you a cemented shoe of quite low quality. Now, in essence, you know, I couldn't vouch for the quality of what they're calling crust leather. It's probably relatively low quality leather in the upper. I'm guessing the leather sole isn't going to be, you know, a JR Rendenbach sole either, but it's Blake stitched, it's going to hold together for a few years, and for 150 quid, that could be a good price if you are not wanting to splash heavily on something which is maybe not going to be worn all that often. However, if you're going to want a pair of shoes which are going to last the decades, you're going to want to go Goodyear welted, and in the North America, the choice to choose would be Allen Edmonds, that classic old brand from Port Washington, been making shoes since 1922. Famously, they make their Goodyear welted shoes. They've been worn by numerous US presidents over the years. And the shoe which we have here is the McAllister wingtip in the chili colour, which would cost you today, if you were buying them in the UK, I think it's about £450, something like that. You know, but they're always on sale. And when I looked at them the other day on sale, their price point was £315. Now in the UK, they're not a good purchase, I have to say, because we have so many options here in the UK. And I would say that Allen Edmonds are coming in at around about the same point as Loke 1880, which is kind of entry-level good, if you want to think of it like that. Yes, they are manufactured mostly in the UK, Loke 1880, but they tend to run around about the same sort of price. For my money, I would rather go into Loke 1880. If you're in North America, Allen Edmonds is your natural choice. The McAllister has been in their catalogue for many, many years. The chili colour is a lovely combination of brown and kind of burgundy, russety colour. And their full wingtip is a maelstrom of broguing, it is fair to say. You've got broguing everywhere you can possibly put it on the McAllister. So you've got the broguing on the medallion, you've got the wingtip, that inverted V at the front, meant to symbolise the wings of a bird, fully stitched around with broguing, fully stitched encompassing the lacing system and around the opening of the shoe as well. So a lot of broguing here. I really like that, actually. I'm a fan of broguing, as I've said, and it adds a lot to the shoe, texture, pattern, but also the opportunity for the shoe to patina in different ways in different parts of the shoe. The beauty of buying Allen Edmonds Goodyear welted shoe, it can easily be recrafted, and they offer a factory refurbishment program. Once your shoe is worn down, you can send it back into the company, and they will, put the shoe back on its original last and put a new sole on it and do whatever needs to be done to bring your shoe back up to, a beautiful look. For me, this shoe here, it's vying with that semi-brogue for something I would bring into the collection myself. It's possibly the most versatile shoe ever, I think, the full wingtip brogue. You can wear it with your suit, you can wear it with your casual clothing, jeans, you can wear it with those middle area clothing, your chinos and things like that. So extremely versatile, very attractive, very classic, very elegant, very well made, and a reasonably approachable price. I've heard things about Allen Edmonds since they've been taken over by another company in recent years, decreasing in quality levels. I can't vouch for that. I'm only hearing the rumours that are going around the shoe world. Let me know. Have you owned a pair from the past and owned a pair recently? And is there a discernible difference? I'd be interested to know. So there we go. That was Steve's collection. I am going to throw in an option here which I think would benefit his collection and would be something he could really bring that collection to a conclusion. Now he owns many more which I haven't featured here, but one thing you'll have noticed from what I've showed you here today, and he owns a load of boots as well, but there's an omission, and I think a chucker boot would fare well in his collection. And it's not hard to choose a chucker boot because every major shoe manufacturer normally has a chucker boot in the collection. Looking at the British manufacturers, Northamptonshire made stuff, which I notice is sadly deficient in Steve's collection. I think he should own at least one shoe from the world's capital of shoemaking, and I'm going to suggest the Crockett & Jones Tetbury chucker boot. It would cost £565 if you were to buy it today. It is expensive, but remember, it's a boot for life. It is made by one of the best shoemakers in the world, royal warrant holders, worn by the king, and it can be, I've been to the factory, I've been there a few times, it's a thing to behold. Artisan craftspeople putting love and affection into the manufacture of these boots, and it's a boot which will go on forever because you can have it Goodyear welted, so it can be the sole can be replaced time and time again. What I like about the Tetbury, it has a day-night sole. It is Goodyear welted. It's got that beautiful, suspiciously squared off toe, as they call it, which gives it a distinctive profile, very attractive. Of course, it has been worn by James Bond or Daniel Craig when he was playing James Bond on a number of occasions. It is sleek, it is elegant, it is beautiful. It will be with you for decades if you look after it properly and have it recrafted by the factory, and it will bring a touch of sophistication to any outfit that you put them with. They come in a number of colours, so you've always got the right shoe for the situation. And you then have a Rolls Royce in your collection of shoes, many from niche little brands, as we've talked about today, but then you've got the established king of the shoe world, and that's the one that you can feel special wearing. Just a thought though. So there we go, Steve. Thank you for sending the images of your shoes in. I enjoyed researching them. I enjoyed discovering some of these brands I'd never heard of before. And some I'm going to look towards exploring a bit more because, there were some very nice shoes at very approachable prices, which I'm all about. So thanks for that. Don't forget, if you'd like your shoes to feature here, send me in some images of the shoes, high definition, nice pictures, any stories you want to tell me about them, how long you've had them, things like that, and I'd be delighted to feature them in a future video. So, don't forget, if you've enjoyed the video, like it, subscribe to see more, come on the journey with me as a patron. I make exclusive extra videos for my patrons every week, the link to which is in the show notes below. Tiny monthly fee to get lots more exclusive content. So, until the next time, folks, and thanks to Steve for today. Take care, and I'll see you soon.